Gemma-chan.
Mayong gamba.
Good to see you. How are you this morning?
It's a little bit busy because I had one online meeting with my customer
Today.
today, so I
I
wear
see.
shirt.
Oh, that's good. But thank you for having that time to study. So let's
Yes.
continue now.
So
You
continue.
are in stage 11, 971.
Mm,
The last head word would be inversion. Is that
inversion.
correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so let's start with your revision part.
Okay.
What tip would you offer a holiday maker who was visiting your country for the first time? What tip would you offer a holiday maker who was visiting your country for the first time? The tip
The
I'd
tip
offer
I'd
a
offer
holiday
a holiday
maker who
maker
was
who was
visiting my
visiting my
country for the
country
first
for
time
the first time
would be
would be making a map with stores. It can use e-commerce or e-payments.
all right. Do you get irritable if you go without food for a long time? Do you get irritable if you go without food for a long time? Yes, no.
Yes,
I get
you get
irritable
irritable
if I go
if I
without
go
food
without
for a
food
long
for a
time.
long time.
What do we use sacks for? What do we use sacks for? We use
We
sacks
use
for
sacks for
transporting and
transporting
storing
and storing
things
things
like
like
vegetables,
vegetables,
especially
especially
potatoes.
potatoes.
What does the expression to get the sack mean? What does expression to get the sack mean? The
The
expression
expression
to get the
to get the
sack
sack
means
means
to be
to
dismissed
be
from
dismissed from
employment.
employment.
How would you react if you were unfairly fired from a job you liked, especially if there were mass unemployment at that time? How would you react if you were unfairly fired from a job you liked, especially if there were mass unemployment at that time? If I
If
were
I were
unfairly
unfairly
fired
fired
from a
from
job
a
I
job
liked,
I liked,
I'd react
I'd
by,
react by giving up and looking for other companies in the same industry,
especially if
especially
there were
if there were
mass unemployment
mass
at that
employment
time.
at the time.
What's a deadline? What's a deadline? A deadline
A deadline
is a
is
time or
a
date
time or date
before which
before
something
which something
has to be
has to
finished.
be finished.
Give me an example, please. Give me an example, please. Our boss
Our
has
boss
moved
has
the
moved
deadline
the
back.
deadline back.
So we've got
So
an
we've
extra
got
week
an extra
to
week
get
to get
everything done.
to
Everything
get
done.
everything done.
Yes. Now, what can we say instead of suddenly? What can we say instead of suddenly? We can
We
say
can
all at
say all at
once
once
instead of
instead of
suddenly.
suddenly.
Give me an example, please. Give me an
Hmm.
example, please. We just got
We
to
just
the
got
beach
to the beach
when all at
when
once
all
it
at once it
began to
began
pour
to
down.
pour down.
Why is it important to ensure that the air in a classroom doesn't become stale? Why is it important to ensure that the air in a classroom doesn't become stale? It's
It's
important to
important
ensure
to
that
ensure
the
that
air
the
in the
air in the
classroom
classroom
doesn't become
doesn't
stale
become stale
because stale
because
air
stale air
lacks
lacks
oxygen,
oxygen,
which is
which is
essential for
essential
the brain.
for the brain.
One more time, essential
It's essential
for the
for
brain
the
to work
brain to work
properly.
properly.
What do we call the mark left on our skin after a wound has healed? What do we call the mark left on our skin after a wound has healed? We call the
We
mark
call the mark
left on our
left on
skin
our skin
after a wound
after
has
a wound
healed
has
a
healed a
scar.
scar.
How can parents prevent their young children from getting at medicine bottles or containers with chemicals in them? How can parents prevent their young children from getting at medicine bottles or containers with chemicals in them? Parents can
Parents
prevent
can
their
prevent
young
their
children
young
from
children
getting
from
at
getting at
medicine
medicine
bottles
bottles
or
or
containers
containers
with
with
chemicals in
chemicals
them
in them
by storing
by
them
storing them
on high
on high
shelves
shelves
or in locked
or in locked
cupboards.
cupboard.
Now, do your parents have any grandchildren? Do your parents have any grandchildren? Yes, no.
No,
My
my
parents don't
parents
have
don't have
any
any
grandchildren.
grandchildren.
If someone feels constantly depressed, can their doctor prescribe medicine to help relieve the depression? If someone feels constantly depressed, can their doctor prescribe medicine to help relieve the depression? Yes. If
Yes,
someone
if someone
feels
feels constantly
depressed,
depressed,
their doctor
their
can
doctor can
prescribe
prescribe
medicine
medicine
to help
to
relieve
help
the
relieve
depression.
their depression.
Why do people's minds sometimes go blank when they're trying to answer a question in a job interview? Why do people's minds sometimes go blank when they're trying to answer a question in a job interview? People's
People's
minds
minds
sometimes
sometimes go blank
when they're trying
when they're
to
trying to answer
a question
a
in a
question
job
in a job
interview
interview
because they
because
feel
they feel
stressed.
stressed.
Do you believe in the saying, never put off until tomorrow that which you can do today? Do you believe in a saying, never put off until tomorrow that which you can do today? Yes, no.
No,
I don't
I
believe
don't
in the
believe in
saying,
the saying,
never put
never
off
put off
until tomorrow
until tomorrow
that which you
that
can
which
do
you can do
today.
today.
Why not? Why not? Because
Because after having matured, we may find out what we really need to do or don't really need to do.
yes, good.
Thank
Now,
you.
would you be put off going to a restaurant with a good reputation? If a friend told you they'd recently had an awful meal there, would you be put off going to a restaurant with a good reputation if your friend told you they recently had an awful meal there? Yes, no.
Yes.
I'd be put off
I'd be put off
going
to a restaurant
with a good
with a
reputation
good reputation
if a friend
if a
told
friend
me
told me
they'd
they'd
recently
recently
had an
had
awful
an
meal
awful meal
there.
there.
Now, name a sport in which rules are fairly elementary. Name a
Okay.
sport for which the rules are fairly elementary.
Basketball
It's a
is
sport
a
for
sport
which
for
the
which
rules
the
are
rules are very elementary.
What kind of people are well known for charging absurdly high fees for the work they do? What kind of people are well known for charging absurdly high fees for the work they do?
Actors or artists
Are well
are
known
well
for
known
charging
for charging absurdly high
fees
fees
for the work
for
they
the
do.
work they do.
And we have here when buying a medicine, or sorry, when buying expensive painting
Okay.
or other work of art, how can you assure yourself that it is genuine and not a fake? When buying an expensive painting or other work of art, how can you assure yourself that it's genuine and not a fake? When buying
When
an
buying an
expensive
expensive
painting or
painting
other
or
work of
other
art,
work of
I
art,
can assure
I can assure myself
that
that
it is
it is
genuine
genuine
and not a fake
and not a
by
fake
asking to
by
see
asking
a
to see
certificate,
a certificate,
getting a
getting
second
a
opinion
second opinion
from an
from
expert,
an expert,
etc.
etc.
Yes. And we have here, okay, I'm going to give you two or three words and I want you to make a sentence starting with those words. Not only, not only, not
Not
only
only
can she speak
can she speak
French,
French,
but she can
but she
also
can also
speak German.
speak German.
Under no circumstances, under no circumstances, under no
Under no
circumstances
circumstances
should you press
should you
this
place
red
this
button.
red button.
No sooner, no sooner, no
No
sooner had
sooner
she
had she
graduated
graduated
from
from
university
university
than she
than
found
she
a
found
fantastic
a
job.
fantastic job.
And now make the following sentences more emphatic by using an inversion, please. I had barely sat down when the cat jumped onto my lap. I had barely sat down when the cat jumped onto my lap. Barely
Barely
had I
had
sat
I
down
sat down
when the cat
when the
jumped
cat jumped
onto my lap.
onto my lap.
He isn't a friend of mine by any means. He isn't a friend of mine by any means. By no
By
means
no
is
means
he a
is
friend
he
of
a
mine.
friend of mine.
She rarely calls her parents these days. She rarely calls her parents these days. Rarely
Rarely
does she
does
call
she
her
call her
parents these
parents these
days.
days.
Mary had no idea that we had arranged a party for her birthday. Mary had no idea that we had arranged a party for her birthday. Little did
Little
Mary
bit
know
Mary know
that we had
that we
arranged
had
a
arranged a
party
party
for her
for her
birthday.
birthday.
Now let's do new work this time.
Okay.
Repeat margin.
Margin.
Listen, margin is a noun. It is an empty space to the side, top, or bottom of a text on a page. I make notes in the margin of my student's book. Let's practice. Do you make notes in the margin of your student's book? Do you make notes in the margin of your student's book? Yes, no.
No,
I don't make
I don't
notes
make
in the
notes in the
margin
margin
of my
of my
student's book.
student's book.
Repeat, stand a chance.
Stand a chance.
Participate.
Participate.
Listen, participate is to take part in an activity or event with others. Most people join the game, but few chose not to participate. Stand a chance is a verb, have the possibility of succeeding. In a major sporting competition, such as the Olympics, I think it's important for everyone participating to believe they stand a chance of winning. Let's practice.
Okay.
In a major sporting competition, such as the Olympics, do you think it's important for everyone participating to believe they stand a chance of winning? In a major sporting competition, such as the Olympics, do you think it's important for everyone participating to believe they stand a chance of winning? Yes, no.
Yes.
In a major
sporting
competition,
competition,
such as
such
the
as the
Olympics,
Olympics,
I think
I
it's
think it's
important for
important
everyone
for everyone
participating
participating
to believe
to
they
believe
stand a
they stand a
chance
chance
of winning.
of winning.
Now repeat, sell out.
Sell out.
As a sell out is a phrasal verb, means to be bought until no more is available or no more are available. Example, when I go to buy something I've really been looking forward to getting and discover that a shop has sold out, I feel disappointed and frustrated. Let's practice. How do you
Okay.
feel when you go to buy something you've really been looking forward to getting and discover that a shop has sold out? How do you feel when you go to buy something you've really been looking forward to getting and discover that a shop has sold out? When I
When I
to
go
buy
to buy
something
something,
I've really
I've
been
really
looking
been
forward
looking forward
to getting
to getting
and
and
discover that
the
the
server.
shop has sold out,
I'm sorry,
that
we repeat. And
okay, discover
and
that
discover
the shop
the shop
has sold out,
has sold out.
I feel
I feel
disappointed
disappointed
and
and
frustrated.
frustrated. Thank you.
Okay. Next one, repeat, call in,
Call in.
call by.
Call by.
Okay, listen. Now, the phrase call in is to visit briefly, but notice the following difference in structure. We call in on someone or we visit someone, and we call in at a place. We can also call by at a place. John was off sick, so I called in on him to check if he needed anything. Someone need to call by their office even though it's their day off. Let's practice. Give me
Okay.
an example of call in on place. Give me an example of call in on place. John was
John
off
was
sick.
off sick,
So I
so
called
I
in
called in on him
to check
to
if he
check if
needed
he needed
anything.
anything.
Do you often call in at your local supermarket on your way home after work? Do you often call in at your local supermarket on your way home after work? Yes, no.
Yes,
I often
I
call in
often call
at
in
our
at
local
our local
supermarket on
supermarket
my way
on
home
my way
after
home
work.
after work.
Why might someone need to call by their office even though it's their day off? Why might someone need to call by their office even though it's their day off? Someone
Someone
might need to
might
call
need to
by
call
their
by their
office
office
even though it's
even though
their day
it's
off
their day off
because
because they suddenly remembered urgent tasks. For example, for a task that have passed the deadline, forgetting a lock their office, etc.
very good.
Thank you.
Repeat, needless to say.
Needless to say,
Listen, needless to say is used to say that the statement you are making is obvious. Example,
obvious.
Angela was offered a job yesterday. Needless to say, she's delighted. Let's practice. Give
Okay.
me example of the expression needless to say, please. Give me example of the expression needless to say, please. Angela was
Angela
offered a
was
job
offered a job
yesterday.
yesterday.
Needless to
Needless
say,
to say,
she's
she's
delighted.
delighted.
Repeat, face,
Face,
rebel,
rebel,
grumpy,
grumpy,
stubborn,
stubborn,
cope,
cop,
on top of.
on top of.
Okay, listen. A phase is a noun, a stage in a process of development. My friend is going through a punk phase.
Punk
He
face.
likes punk music, fashion, like wearing metal chains, etc.
Okay, okay, understand.
Rebel, it is to oppose a person or group in authority. Children often rebel against their parents. Grumpy is easily annoyed or angered. I am sometimes feeling grumpy after a long flight. Stubborn means determined to do what he or she wants to do and refuses to do anything else. When I was a child, if I was wrong, I was too stubborn to admit it. Cope is to deal with problems and difficult situations. My work has been difficult, but I'm learning to cope, or I'm learning to deal with it. On top of is in addition to something. Some university students find it hard to cope if they have to do part-time job on top of studying for their degree. Let's practice. What do parents mean when they say their son or daughter is going through a difficult phase? What do parents mean when they say their son or daughter is going through a difficult phase? When parents say their son or daughter is going through a difficult phase, they mean their son or daughter is going through a temporary period of rebelling against them and it's difficult to cope with, perhaps because they're being grumpy and stubborn. Do some university students find it hard to cope if they have to do a part-time job on top of studying for their degree? Do some university students find it hard to cope if they have to do a part-time job on top of studying for their degree? Yes, some university students find it hard to cope if they have to do a part-time job on top of studying for their degree. Okay, next one, repeat donate. Listen, donate is a verb to give money, food, clothes in order to help a person or organization. If I won 20 million pounds in a lottery, I donate 500,000 pounds to charity. Let's practice. If you won 20 million pounds in a lottery, how much would you donate to charity? If you won 20 million pounds in a lottery, how much would you donate to charity? If I won 20 million pounds in a lottery, I donate about 500 million pounds to charity. Million or thousand? Because 20 million, 500 million is higher than 20 million. So you say 500,000 pounds. 500,000 pounds to charity, not million. 500. 500,000. Okay, 5 million pounds. 5 million, not 5 million. Yes, I see. Quarter of the whole game. Okay, 5 million. I thought it's 500 million. Okay, I'm sorry. I mistake. I see. Okay, no worries. Repeat tradition. Traditional. Costume. Okay, very good. Listen now. Tradition is a noun, a way of thinking, behaving, or doing something caused by the people in a particular group. One of our town's time-honored tradition is an Easter egg during Easter. Traditional is a noun. Traditional dish from my country is, of course, lechon baboy or roasted pig. Drawing. Yes, costume is a set of clothes for a particular country or period of history. Let's practice. Describe a traditional costume or traditional dish from that country. Describe a traditional costume or traditional dish from that country. A traditional, I tried a dish from this country is cooked rice shaped into a fish size and wrapped in seaweed. It's called onigiri. Onigiri. Rice bowl. Right. Rice bowl. I see. Repeat. Racket. Gang. Gangster. Decent. The 1920s. Yes, listen. Racket is a noun, a piece of sport equipment used to hit a ball. We play tennis with a tennis racket. Racket is a loud and unpleasant noise. The children in the next room have been making a terrible racket. Another meaning of racket is a business that makes money through illegal activities.
Business,
Gang
illegal.
is a group of young people who spend a lot of time together, often causing trouble with other groups. If a gang of young men were making a racket outside my house in the middle of the night, I'd call the police.
Noise.
Gangster. It's a member of a group of violent criminal. Most rackets in America in the 1920s and 1930s were
Business.
controlled by gangsters. Decent means good or kind. I reckon a decent tennis racket costs about $5 these days. Let's practice. If a gang of young men were making a racket outside your house in the middle of the night, would you call the police, go and talk to them, or just try to ignore the racket? If a gang of young men were making a racket outside your house in the middle of the night, would you call the police, go out and talk to them, or just try to ignore the racket? If a gang of young men were making a racket
outside my house
in the middle of the
night,
night,
I'd call the police.
good. Let's do reading part this time.
Okay.
Yes. Kindly go to 947
57.
after the head word call off.
Call off.
Yes, you
Okay.
can start with.
Medium. Okay. Mag-suot na ta. Medium. How many bedrooms does the medium-sized house in this town have? Medium-sized house in this town has one or two bedrooms. Lane, motorway, overtake. What should the outside lane on a motorway be used for? The outside lane on a motorway should be used for overtaking. Dash. Cut short. What do people mean during a conversation when they say, sorry, I must dash? When people say, sorry, I must dash, they mean they have to leave in a hurry and so cut short the conversation. Since. Give me a sentence with the word since used with the meaning of because. We will have to do the job ourselves since it seems impossible to find anyone else to do it for us. Phrase exercise. From the four options given with each sentence.
Yama-chan, the phrase exercise, you can skip that part.
Okay. Next.
We can move on to next part.
May I do word pool?
Yes, you can just read the words and then the head word.
Head word. Doll, knuckle.
Yes.
Okay. Doll. はい、ここではカランステージ11から初めて登場するエクササイズについて触れています。このエクササイズは飛ばしていいよってことを先生のアンバーが教えてくれています。このエクササイズはカラン ebook の一番下に位置します。ページ、レッスンが始まって一番下のページの一番最後の部分、一番下にあります。これを飛ばしていいよということを先生が教えてくれています。そしてその代わりにページの頭にあるワードプール。これもカラーのステージ11から始まるものですけれども、言葉を覚えようね、単語を覚えようねっていうパート。これは飛ばさずに単語それぞれを音読していくんだということをアンバーが教えてくれています。Doll, knuckle, trump, globe, calendar, fringe, spark, fountain, chapter, pirate, cable, tractor, peach, mustache, diagram, may well, might well, could well. What happens when we put the word well immediately after the modals may, might, or could? When we put the word well immediately after the modals may, might, or could, it changes their meaning from perhaps to probably. Give me an example, please. He loves Spain so much that I honestly think he may well end up sitting there. Quit. What are the three forms of quit? The three forms of quit are quit, quit, quit. Make a sentence with the verb quit, please. I finally quit my job yesterday. She'd like to be a non-smoker, but she's never quit successfully. Sympathize. Bankrupt. Do you sympathize with people who start their own company but then go bankrupt? Yes, I sympathize with people who start their own company but then go bankrupt. Why? Because I'm also a business owner. Suicide. Commit suicide. Is it illegal in your country to help someone to commit suicide? Yes, it's illegal in my country to help someone to commit suicide. By no means. Not by any means. Give me a sentence containing the words by no means or not by any means. She's by no means the worst in the class. She isn't by any means the worst in the class. Hand out, give out, leaflet, passerby. Is it common to see people handing out or giving out leaflets to passersby in the streets in this town? Yes, it's common to see people handing out or giving out leaflets to passersby in the streets in this town. What do you mean by a one more time. What do we mean by a handout in a business meeting? By a handout in a business meeting, we mean a document that is given to all the people attending the meeting. Acquire, automatic. By learning the language of a country, do you think one automatically acquires some knowledge of that country's culture? Yes, by learning the language of a country, I think one automatically acquires some knowledge of that country's culture.
Okay, Yama-chan, sorry to cut you off. Thank you
Yes.
so much. 974 racket today.
Mm.
All right.
All
I
right.
hope you have a great time meeting your client today and keep safe all the time.
Thank you always, Amber Sanao.
See you.
はい、というわけで、カランステージ11、ステージ11の通常の授業が終わりました。この後は退出をして、今日習ったアンバー先生、アンバーの感想とか良かった点とか、めちゃくちゃ褒めてくれて嬉しかったとか、私の顧客のことを気にしてくれたとか、適したものを書いて今日のレッスンを終わります。